We are from the office in Ciudad, Juarez. The IRC is a humanitarian organization that is responding to the worst humanitarian crisis around the world. It has presence in more than 40 countries, including Mexico. IRC opened the offices in 2019 in Mexico, and actually the first office was in Ciudad, Juarez. So it's been a while since the IRC is implementing, and addressing the access to information has been one of the first projects that we have been promoting or implementing in Juarez, in the border cities. I will say, talk a little bit about the interventions we have, because I want to refer them how we address information, access to information, as part of protection and empowerment. In Mexico, we work with the migration crisis, with people on the move that face vulnerabilities, violence. So we are focusing our interventions on protection, empowerment, and capacity development. So we consider access to information, the information as a tool for empowerment and protection. So that's why we have it as one of our key or core interventions in Juarez. So I will talk in line with what the doctor presented before. You know, probably that's why you are all here, what's going on right now in the border cities. And it changes constantly, so we constantly have to be updating the information. So probably this topic of accessing information is not new, but that's what have us here talking about it. Well, we know that both Mexico and the U.S. have been implementing deterrence measures to stem the flows, the migration flows. We know, but that they don't really will stop the flows. The migration will keep existing. What will happen is that the routes, the mechanism will vary. It will cause a diversification of the mechanisms and routes that people use. And that can expose people in a higher level to rights violations, to safety risks. We have found arbitrary detention, extortion, kidnapping, sexual assaults, extreme violence. And this is something that we are seeing it increasingly along the route. And even in the border cities, their destination probably is the U.S., and when they are in the border cities, they face similar situations probably to the ones they're fleeing. So this is something that we're seeing increasingly. It's not uncommon in the border cities or in the journey, but it's something that is happening more constantly along or during the journey. So not having information, or the lack of information, or basing decision-making on rumors can expose people on higher levels to these risks along the journey. We're sharing just, for example, 2 news headlines. But if you Google, just use like the rights violations or violent situations migrants facing in Mexico, it will be a long list of the risks they are facing along the route. So this is just like some recent or some reliable sources I wish us to share. But if you do this search, you will find a lot of heads of this type. So also with the assessments the IRC is conducting constantly to get familiarized with the changes in context, we have implemented 2 assessments in 2022 and 2023 regarding the access of services or protection concerns of the population we assist. So we found that acute protection needs are identified, and this includes access to safe and reliable information. People is expressing this as a protection need. They know they need information, as Gabriella said, of services, of what's going on, legal orientation. Sometimes they trouble like unblocking some levels. I cross this country and then I get familiarized on what's going on there, and then once I get to the other country, I get familiarized on what's going on. So it's kind of unblocking information. It's not well known from this route to that point. usually, it's not common that people have all the information they need up to their final destination. So in our 2022 assessment, we found that 69% of the respondents needed legal orientation. It was mostly at that time around Title 42. And other 19% requested other type of information, which was regarding services, mostly accommodation or basic needs services, but also employment and mental health. Also in that assessment, and it was interesting that our colleague here mentioned something about TikTok. In 2022, the most sources uses to get informed or to get information were Facebook and WhatsApp. These groups that are sometimes by community. For example, this one said like Piedras Negras Migrantes. Sometimes it's like the nationality, Cuban migrants, or Matamoros City. So there are a lot of Facebook groups. Sorry? Oh, okay. It's not my colleague yet. Okay. So the most used sources of information at the time were Facebook and WhatsApp. Probably we haven't done an assessment right now, but we have done some informal talks with the population, and we have seen that now the use of social media is shifting to the use of TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and WhatsApp mostly to communicate within communities they are forming along the journey. And in our latest assessment that was conducted last April, it was mostly focused on the Haitian population regarding the barriers of access of services. And we found that 73% of Haitian migrants did not receive clear and accessible information from authorities or organizations. This was mostly to language barriers and discrimination. Those are not the only factors, but those were the most mentioned within the population. So having this in mind, we are also analyzing what is happening with this misinformation, how is the impact in the communities within the organization. You have heard that the rumor of the open border. This is a rumor that we have been hearing constantly, even since Title 42. We've seen that even before and after Title 42, thousands of people have decided to turn themselves into the U.S. border authorities, believing that there's this opportunity of enter the U.S. without any legal consequence on their processes. And this is creating a lot of confusion. People sometimes go just to monitor and see what's going on, but as is in the other side of the border, they don't really know what is the information that people there are receiving. So if they see that people are entering the U.S., probably they think that it will be the same for them, and they will be let in openly or freely in the U.S. This also exposed people to the physical integrity, not only like the weather conditions that we know the border cities have the extreme weather conditions, but also exposes them to risks, safety risks. And we have also to consider how the information deals or interacts with other factors, for example, the emotional distress or the mental health. We know that not finding an appointment or all the situations and experiences they have lived along the journey. So it's not just like I heard a rumor, but it's all the emotional factors that are happening. And also the sense of safety. As I said before, it's common that the border cities are not safe for the people that is coming. They are fleeing from situations that are similar of the border cities. So also the sense of safety is something that we have to consider how this impacts on the use of information and rumors. We are seeing also a lot of frauds. Based on deception, there are criminal groups that are selling fake CBP1 appointments. And for example, in southern Mexico, where geographically it's not possible to schedule an appointment, people are paying for this service. And we're seeing, and this is also one of our challenges, that these criminal groups are getting very professionalized and specializing their services. For example, we sometimes within the organizations, we share some information or rumors that we heard, and how we can recognize a fake CBP1 appointment is getting harder and harder. We found that the font was a little bit different, the size or the type of font. So the criminal groups are specializing their services and making them feel as safe and trustful. And so it makes it also very difficult to have, they lose their money in these processes, and they also lack trust of other groups or organizations that want to provide reliable information. And finally, in line with what I've been saying before, the exposure to trafficking and smuggling networks, it's not just the fraud and the taking money, but it can also expose their lives to high levels of risks. And people are exposed to trafficking, smuggling, and kidnapping. As I said, we're seeing high numbers even here in Juarez. Okay, some of the problems or factors we have identified that are hindering the access to information and are not limited to this listed here. It's the constant change in the migration policies. It is a challenge not only for the population, because they have to be up to date on what's going on, but also for us, for the organizations. When we are familiarizing with one of the changes, then it comes another change. This was the example of the shifting Title 42 and the end of the implementation and all the legal processes, because we have to inform if there's like this possible cancellation can be translated or interpreted as Title 42 is canceled. But there's still a process. So also it is a challenge for the organizations to keep up with this constant changing policies. Also, the difficulty in accessing official sources, as we said before, this information is structural, so it's difficult to address the root causes. And there are a high, enormous level number of unverifiable sources and social media channels dedicating to spread false information, or just to share, like Gabriella said, these personal experiences. And I will add that as another factor we have been identifying for the access of information, that is, sometimes people base their decision on a personal experience of someone else. So the personal experience, and also that some of the processes are discretional. It's also a challenge for when we want to share official information, because if there's a case that was able to enter the US and stay and start an asylum process, but the official sources say that the pathway is through CBP1 appointments, it's difficult that the people will trust an organization or the official messages of governments when their cousin or the neighbor of their cousin was able to enter the US. So also the personal experiences and the discretionality of the processes is one of the challenges in the access to information. Then we also have the gap in the use of digital tools. We know that most of people migrating have access to a phone, but we know that also they suffer robbery along the route, extortion. So sometimes they come or arrive to the city with no mobile phone. And also there are, if we take into consideration, for example, gender-based violence, it's most common for men to have a phone instead of women. We have people that come from indigenous communities that probably are not that familiarized with technology. So there's still a gap in the use of digital tools. We have another two factors that impact the access to information, which is the bureaucratic and complex information. The information that is available, as we were talking before, there are government posts and sources and articles and news that talk about the changes, but sometimes they use very technical terms or the information that is created is not thinking on the population that is targeting this information. So the technicality of the information, it's also one of the most important barriers. And also, for example, in the cases for accessing services, the bureaucratic processes to get an appointment in migration and understand what or how is my process in Mexico, for example, gets very bureaucratic and the information is not flowing to the people. And finally, the language barriers. We have seen an increase of other nationalities, not only from Latin America, we have seen from other continents and also, Haitian communities and also indigenous communities. So also language barriers is still a problem for accessing information. So this is a little bit about the context or the problems we are identifying. And now we want to talk and share with you a little bit on what we are doing, how are we responding to these problems that we're identifying. And now I will pass it on to my colleague Miguel. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. My name is Miguel Ángel Lugo, and I'm going to talk to you about the Infodigna project. IRC Mexico launched Infodigna in 2020. Infodigna is a digital platform that provides safe, impartial, and accessible information to people on the move who need tools to make informed decisions, stay safe, access services, and know their rights. Infodigna, it's important to say that Infodigna is part of the global Signpost initiative. The aim of Signpost is to embed a community-led, responsive information service at the heart of every humanitarian context around the world, shifting the power of information and decision-making into the hands of the communities impacted by crisis. It's important to say that Signposts have some platforms around the world. For example, in Colombia, in Ecuador, United States, in Africa, in Europa. And I'm happy to say that in July 2023, the Global Signpost Project was awarded the Connect Award at the Sustainable Development Goal Action Award in recognition of their work supporting and empowering millions of people on the move with timely, accurate, and often life-saving information. Entonces, para nosotros es muy importante decir que esto forma parte de un esfuerzo más grande. Signpost es una iniciativa que lo que hace es proporcionar servicios de información en lugares en donde la información es crítica y vital para que las personas puedan tomar decisiones informadas. I would like to show you a short video about the Signpost project.
Information is power, and humanitarian information is no exception. The international aid sector is there to help, but historically, delivering aid has been a one-way conversation. People fleeing crises often arrive in a new country where they don't speak the language and have to navigate a complex web of bureaucratic information that wasn't created with them in mind. That's why we created Signpost to decolonize humanitarian information. We meet clients on the platforms they already use to have two-way conversations in the languages they speak. We don't assume that we know what people need. We listen carefully and co-create information with communities to help them navigate their own journey through a crisis and exercise their human rights.
مرأة تواصلت ويانا هي أرملة فقدت زوجها بأحداث داعش اللي صارت مؤخرا للأسف.
Desde Infopalante le brindamos toda la orientación necesaria para que pudiese recibir atención psicosocial.
पाकिस्तान में कई ऐसे इलाके हैं जहाँ पर इंटरनेट जो है वो इतनी अच्छी तरह नहीं चलता और लोगों को
We are working to install Wi-Fi hotspots in Kakuma refugee camp to promote access to information.
Signpost is growing exponentially and now operates on 5 continents. Our goal is to provide contextualized humanitarian information wherever it is needed. Information is a human right. By empowering people in times of crisis, we safeguard their agency and dignity.
How does Infodigna work? Infodigna meets people and provides real-time information through two-way conversations on platforms people already use, like Facebook and WhatsApp. Content generation on topics of interest for people on the move, including articles on infodigna.org and graphic content for Facebook. Topics include immigration processes and policies, mental health, for example, and other safe services. A digital service map of the main cities along the migration route in Mexico, containing information of organization and government offices. Collaboration between Signpost regional platforms like Cuéntanos and Infopalante are the platforms of Signpost in Ecuador and Colombia to inform people along the arc of crisis in the region. So in this, about this slide, we have a team like respond the request of information of our clients about services, about hospitals, about legal services. Cada cliente tiene sus distintas necesidades, entonces nosotros proporcionamos información y hay un equipo que se encarga de hablar con los clientes en tiempo real. Y obviamente nuestras conversaciones son confidenciales y tratamos siempre de conectarlos. Bueno, los conectamos siempre con los servicios que ellos están necesitando. Addressing the digital gap. Infodigna is also providing in-person information to address the digital access gap with the support of interpreters if needed. For example, in Ciudad, Juarez, Infodigna helps people to complete the CBP1 application in Catedral, assisting people who are usually newcomers to the city and few to know information. In Matamoros, in-person activities are held at Ayudándoles a Triunfar. Ayudándoles a Triunfar is a key location for people on the move to access information and services. And in Tapachula, in south of Mexico, Infodigna provides in-person information through IRC Frontline Mobile Unit, accessing remote location or poorly connected with humanitarian services and information. For us, it's important to say that the information in person is very important. Sabemos que trabajamos en una plataforma digital, pero el acceso a la información siempre va a tener una brecha de personas que no están acostumbradas al lenguaje digital o no tienen un equipo de tecnología. Entonces es importante también que llevarles información que les ayude a tomar decisiones y sobre todo de manera imparcial, de manera accesible y de manera segura. Okay, the information is power. With this slide, we want to show a part of our impact of Infodigna. For example, more than 1 million unique visits on infodigna.org, more than 12,000 two-way conversations with people where direct assistance was provided. And who is using Infodigna? About Facebook reach, podemos ver que tenemos el 58.44% de hombres y 41.21% de mujeres que han tenido el alcance de los contenidos de Infodigna en Facebook. Y podemos observar que el grupo de 25 a 34 años es quienes tienen más alcance en los contenidos de Infodigna con un 36.98%. Sobre el sitio de infodigna.org podemos observar que el 43.2% son hombres y el 56.98% son mujeres de personas que acceden al sitio. And our top 10 of countries to visit the platform is México, United States, Colombia, Venezuela, Perú, Guatemala, Ecuador, Spain, Honduras, and Chile. What's next? Trend analysis. The analysis of information is allowing the implementation of actions to better focus information strategies. Further specializing this effort will allow us to generate a broader analytical framework that will enable us to analyze the performance of the contents and to identify trends in information needs. Systematizing rotation monitoring will also make it possible to generate more updated content. Increase capacity for in-person information activities. IRC seek to increase the number and capacity of mobile frontline response units to conduct face-to-face activities along other locations along the migratory route. Information in other languages. Infodigna is adding more languages to the website to increase the level of accessibility of the content and increase accessibility in a context of low connectivity, offline content, so that people who do not have access to the internet can access relevant information. Entonces, para nosotros es importante también pensar en cómo podemos hacer más accesible la información para nuestros clientes, de tal modo que el gap en el uso de herramientas digitales o la poca conectividad que tengamos, pues podamos mitigar esos problemas estructurales con estrategias que permitan llevarles información más accesible. Y listo. Gracias.